Welcome back to another episode of Get to Know, where we bring on a wide variety of guests and have a conversation with them to get to know them on a more personal level. My name is Koso.
And my name is Nick. Today we are joined by none other than the spectacular Chef Morgan James. Today we'll be learning a little bit more about his life and the culinary exploits he's been chefing up. Stay tuned.
Yes, sir.
All right, so today it'll be me and Morgan chefing it up. So what do we have today cooking for the people?
So today, for you guys today, I'm gonna prepare you a pan-seared duck breast with some roasted Brussels sprouts with a sweet potato puree and a blueberry pan sauce. Just something a little bit different, a little bit vibrant to go with this nice weather we're having today.
So as we get into it, naturally, this interview is really trying to figure a little bit more about your life. So how did your journey get started?
So honestly, I've been cooking since, as long as I can remember, I like to say, but truly I dated back to when I was 7. When I was 7 years old, I kind of decided for myself, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I wake up, I watch on TV, I see Emeril Lagasse, and I'm just like, bam! I'm like, I want to do that. Like, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, like, I would see how they would be in the kitchen, like, because my family's from the South, so in South Carolina, it's just like, I'm seeing these 2 women cook for 20 plus people by themselves. They'd be in the kitchen all day, and I'm just like, I'm having fun. But I was like one of those kids who like always had to have his hands in the pot. So they would definitely be like, all right, give him a bowl, let him stir, and I'd sit there for like 30 minutes or so. I'd just be like, all right, I'm done. Can I cook now? And he's like, you already been cooking. So then it was like, from there on, my family just kind of supported the dream. Like, instead of footballs and basketballs, I was getting cookbooks and aprons at a young age for Christmas and birthdays.
Makes sense. So you talked a little bit about family. What are some of your other influences in chefing?
Other influences in cooking besides family definitely would have to be like my friends. Like, my support system honestly has been tremendous along my entire journey, even from earlier on when it's like, it wasn't necessarily as cool to be like, oh yeah, you cook. Like, I was in like home ec classes in middle school and different things like that. And they're like, what you doing in that class? I'm like, I'm learning life skills, or I'm hanging out with women. Like, I would have to like fake in front, like, and it's like now it's the new wave of being like an Instagram chef or being able to step out in front of it and be confident. But my friends, they never like clown me too hard about it, but it's like now they get to reap the benefits of it.
What are friends if they don't challenge you a little bit?
We're gonna start right here with just some cubed up sweet potatoes that I cut up here, and I'm gonna get these into some water back here that I'm about to bring up to a boil. Okay. My puree.
Nice.
And then next on my cutting board, I have my duck breast, nice and dried off. You want to always make sure you pat your proteins dry because you don't want them to stick when you're cooking them. So right here, I have a mounted duck breast, nice lean piece of protein here. And just for texture purposes and a little bit of appreciation, I'm going to score this duck.
Wonderful.
So from right here, I'm going to take my knife. And not gonna go too far into the skin. I just want to go far enough that I can see the indentation of my knife, where it's like you can see that I don't break the flesh of the meat. But this right here is gonna help me yield a better cook, and it's gonna help it not curl up when it hits the pan. I just have some nice large cuts in here because I'm going to actually use the fat from this guy to cook our Brussels sprouts.
Nice. So you're getting a lot of utility out of the dish.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm starting this duck breast off in a cold pan, which is a very key step to cooking duck. With duck, it has a very thick outer skin. So what you want to do is get that into a pan and let it render some of that fat out on a low temperature. So this right here, I'm just going to wait for the oil literally just to come out of this. And then we're going to take that, and like I said, that's gonna be our star component for our Brussels sprouts. And as you can see, like around this pan here, I'm getting a lot of that fat to come out of there, which is very key because like I said, you're gonna start to see like a little brown lining around that duck.
Yeah, I've seen that come in.
Is where you see that skin is starting to shrivel up. A pet peeve of any chef anywhere is a soggy duck skin.
Oh.
You don't want a soggy duck skin.
Okay. So
for the sake of this now, I feel like I have enough of this duck fat right here where I can take some of this out and pour this into this here. And I'm gonna go directly into this pan here. Let me grab these tongs just for the sake of safety reasons. You don't wanna move this too much, but I'm gonna hold that there. And I'm just gonna steal this fat out of here.
Nice.
Because all that is flavor, and that's what we're looking for. for Brussels sprouts, which are already one of those things that we got to convince people are good without being cooked with, like you said, bacon and other things like that. Even though duck fat is essentially giving you the same premise of what that bacon's going to give you.
Presentation being everything. When you get different dishes and meals, I think the worst thing possible is it's a good meal, but the presentation is just off. It really takes away from the whole experience.
We eat with our eyes. Like, you want something visually appealing. Like, as delicious as it may come out to be, if I see a dish that I feel like it could have been plated better, no, I'm not gonna say, oh, no, I'm not gonna eat this because it's not plated the way I like it. But it's like, it takes away from the enjoyment of it. Absolutely.
Are there any like must-have tools that need to be in the chef kitchen, or not even just the chef kitchen? Yeah, the person's
These guys right here.
Those save lives.
Tongs are a chef's best friends. Tongs and towels.
Tongs and towels.
Tongs and towels.
TT, guys.
If there's ever anything working in a kitchen that you're gonna fight over, it's someone moving your tongs or someone taking your towels. Like, it gets real, like, especially in a commercial kitchen. If someone takes your towel, you are ready to go to war. Like, you literally, we would hide them. Like, I know my last job before, I would have a secret hiding place underneath my fryer, literally tucked next to the burner, and be like, grab this, because someone will literally come over here, do whatever with it,
or not put it back where it was supposed to be. Oh
yeah,
man, I can only imagine.
I honestly can't even tell you the last time I've really used a spatula.
Oh,
like,
really?
Tongs are like
tongs are it. Okay.
Tongs and a knife, and I'm telling you, I can do miraculous things. But like, now we're kind of like getting into what I was talking about with the skin, where it's like when I flip this over a little bit like this.
Oh wow.
We're gonna see like how far we've come.
Wow.
Where it's like, you see on here, and even so, me, I can see how crispy that is.
You want that
still,
crisp on there?
I want to go a little bit longer.
Okay.
You just want to make sure that you render that duck skin to that appropriate side. And then at this point, I can turn my heat up a little bit because it's about to happen fast. I just want you to know, pay attention here. So now we over here, I add a little bit of butter, and I have some thyme, some sage, and some rosemary here. And I'm just going to baste this from the bottom. Nice. Just going to spoon this butter over here and just keep spooning over there.
I would say basting is definitely one of the more aesthetically pleasing situations as far as cooking.
It's like if you want to do like a card trick, or you want to impress somebody at dinner, get your practice on with this, and then just look at your significant other, whoever you're looking at, and just, yeah, you know, it's just one of those things, man. You just know how to do it, and it's like you find that rhythm with this, you're golden. And it's like, the key with duck is you want to make sure you baste from the bottom, because like I said, we're trying to retain that crispy skin for a few minutes.
So we kept it relatively light with the seasoning, but is there anything that you would say has to go into a dish? Peppers, onions, things of that nature?
So I'm definitely very simple when it comes to my cooking, because I feel like you want to be able to taste what it is you're cooking. Like, I feel like, I'll go back to the steak reference. People will sit there and manipulate a steak so far past the natural meat flavor that you're going for by adding your Montreal seasoning, which is a blend of like garlics and different things, where it's overkill. So it's like necessarily
it's
for
taking
this.
away the actual flavor of the meat.
So it's like with this right here, I'm just gonna take some of that butter over it too. Just
nice.
Drizzle that back over it. Make sure this right here is nice and coated. Set this to the side. We're gonna take this, I'm gonna go in our oven with this guy.
And we have another question from Twitter. Sweet or savory? We have to know.
Savory all the way.
Okay.
I by no means am a pastry chef, but don't be fooled. I can get down on the bakery side.
Okay. I actually have a terrible sweet tooth, so.
See, and that's gonna be a little bit of what you're gonna get from this blueberry sauce.
Okay.
It's gonna be something where it's almost like that sweet topping to your perfect sundae, but that complexity of like a salted caramel, where it's like you get that savory but sweet note at the same time. You have that with the duck and the sweet potatoes, because those are going to be something that naturally are going to have that sweetness to it, but you can add that, of course, depending on whatever way you want to go with it. With my puree, I want it to be very flat and one note, because essentially that's going to be just a a navigation system for how you eat this plate, and you'll see what I'm talking about once that comes together. So
really super excited for it.
Got my Brussels here. Those look nice. I can get those a nice toss here. And as you can see, like I'm still retaining that green color on there because, like I said, green is key. Like with vegetables, you want to be able to
see the color still within
exactly.
Lovely.
At this point, it's like just let these rock out here on low, and those are almost done. Because again, you don't want to overcook these. Brussels sprouts is another thing. It's like there's so many different ways you can do it. People will blanch them first. People will put them in the oven, roast them for a long time. Me, I like a little bit of tenderness to it, and I like that little bit of bite to it because I want you to be able to taste the texture of it because the leaves on here are very delicate. As you can see, they'll flake off and fall in the pan. So this is just something I like to take note of, and I like to do for myself. Like other chefs may like to cook this a little bit further, but that's not what we're really looking for.
So as a chef, we talked about some influence, but do you have a chef who's your personal inspiration, someone you actually truly look up to in their culinary styles?
So honestly, there's so many chefs out here doing amazing, innovative things. And honestly, the young innovators of this era are between the ages of like 24 and I'll say 37. So if I had to quote one person right now, I would definitely have to say my mentor Chris has always been somebody who's kind of like stuck out to me as someone who never took the straight and narrow path or the simple approach to something. It was just the complexity of how he was able to teach and how he was able to be like, don't look at something straight on, like find the ways to take it apart. So it's like that's how I look at it, and that's why you'll hear me reference with my cooking a storybook. Like I like to say, I'm giving you a storyline where it's like I want you to be at one point where it's the beginning, a middle, and the end, but your decision on the plate navigates how your story unfolds.
Wonderful. So all of these things are looking beautiful. So I know social media has been huge as far as influencing culinary exploits as well. Have you taken advantage of that?
I'm slowly learning how to get into it because I'm more of a action type of person. So a lot of the things I do with work is constantly just being in the moment of doing it. I don't really necessarily have the luxury to sit back and learn like the TikToks and the reels. It's like I feel like I'm kind of
a lot of TikTok shows.
Oh my gosh! But there's a lot of good information that they're giving you. Maybe just the format of such I'm a little bit dated on because that's the only app out here that makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing when I sign into that app. But I'm learning, and it's like I realize it's just like the industry. The culinary industry is a constantly adapting industry. It's very trendy. It's very opinionated based on what's popular.
Definitely.
And right now, that's what's in. So it's like either get with the times or you're gonna be that odd man out fighting to kick a dead horse, and I really don't see the point in doing it. So I'm learning. There's some YouTube content and different things coming soon that I've been working on.
I'd like to hear that.
So definitely gonna have some exciting things coming soon.
So as a personal chef, you've had to have had some very interesting clients. Can you let us in on some of who those people are?
A lot of my most notable clients, definitely Dwayne Haskins, shout out my boy, playing for the Steelers now, so excited for that upcoming season to watch my guy ball out. A lot of people have seen the beautiful songstress Miss Ari Lennox. That definitely, probably I would say, was probably one of my most memorable clients of that caliber because, like, honestly, she was so genuine when I met her, and it was just like a very homey experience. Like, she was super nice and just like embraced my services with open arms, and it was nice. And shout out to Sean Cooper for making that happen. Like, Sean Cooper has definitely been a huge staple in this city for just connecting a lot of creatives, so I definitely want to shout out him for that. One that I've never spoken on like on camera, Godfrey the comedian. That was actually an interesting one where one of my business partners went to his comedy show and was like, hey, my business partner's a chef and he would love to do a private tasting for you. before even talking to me. So he gives me a call and he's like, bro, would you be able to pull up like right now and cook something? Mind you, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, absolutely, I could.
Call.
But I was like, when does this show like stop running in Baltimore? He's like, oh, they have like 2 more sets. I was like, let's set this up for another night. So we get everything set up. And honestly, it was one of the most hilarious but intellectual conversations I've ever had cooking for somebody, because I'm sure a lot of people are familiar like with his podcast and a lot of his hot takes. So I was honestly will say that was probably definitely one of the top interesting moments in my career.
All right, so you mentioned some real genuine people. Without naming any names, what is one of the craziest asks you've received as a chef?
Craziest ask. I remember a client asked for cow tongue tacos on like a random Thursday, and I was like, how am I going to get a cow tongue right now on the fly that I can't go to like a grocery store to just pick it out? So I remember I had to call in a favor of a buddy at a restaurant who I knew they ran cow tongue on their menu. Can't use his name either, but shout out to him for giving me that off-market pricing for that. So that was great, and we made it happen. Like, I pride myself on being in a position where I've never had to tell a client no. And I got one more story. This is honestly probably the most interesting that a lot of people haven't really heard. The first time when I cooked for Dwayne Haskins in Miami at his condo, I couldn't figure out how to get his oven to work. Like, it was like the fanciest German oven ever. But there was mac and cheese and a butter cake on the menu.
Ooh.
Both of them got served.
Okay.
Both of them got made in the microwave.
Now I have to know how that happened.
A lot of finessing and a lot of patience. So it was one of those convection over the stove type of microwaves where I literally pushed every setting to crank it up to the highest setting. And I honestly had to find a rotation setting of, all right, cake goes in 30 minutes while I'm cooking. Because I think I did 4 or 5 courses that night. So I was like, all right, that cake's rolling. Take that out. Mac and cheese goes in. Take this out. Rotate it. Put this in. Then, at the end, half the cake came out perfect. The other half didn't. Which half did he see? And that's why I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, it's definitely been a pleasure cooking with you. So now we're moving into the second phase. As the dish continues to prepare itself, you will be taking over from here.
Thank you for holding me down for the first half of this interview. But yeah, some will be taking over from now on.
Let's get it.
I want to circle back to something that was discussed earlier in this interview. You said you chose drums over flats for wings. I don't really understand that. Don't really understand it, but that's fine. I gotta ask you, ranch or blue cheese?
Absolutely blue cheese, all the way.
All right, just had to make sure because I was a little bit worried there.
Nah,
just
absolutely.
had to get that clarification.
Absolutely.
So, walk me through what we got going on right here. I know you've introduced the dish and things of that nature, but like.
So you caught me honestly at the perfect time. Like, our duck has just come out and it's gonna rest over there on the side in between 7 to 10 minutes. And with these drippings and what we have at the bottom of the pan, we call this the fond because that's like
the fonds?
The fond.
The
like,
fond. Okay,
fond,
okay.
F-O-N-D. So it's like we leave the residual like drippings and different things of what protein we cooked in there, and all that's just flavored. So I'm gonna get my heat up a little bit here.
And what are you gonna do with that fond?
I'm gonna deglaze this with a little bit of chicken stock, so I can scrape up some of that off the side. And this is gonna be the base of our pan sauce. So I got a little bit of that in there.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw in
putting in berries.
Some blueberries.
Blueberries. What is that? What is that gonna do flavor-wise?
This is gonna give us that contrast of sweetness to a very savory dish, where it's like we have the Brussels sprouts, which are gonna be nice and seasoned very well and flavorful.
Okay.
And this right here is just gonna be an assortment of the duck drippings and those berries that are gonna come down, where I'm gonna make sure this all just cooks off and kind of turns into kind of like a syrup.
Okay.
It's gonna almost kind of be like a glaze.
What are you gonna put the syrup on? Is that for the Brussels sprouts?
This is for the duck.
For the duck. That's gonna be interesting. Yes. So one thing I did want to ask you is, what is your why behind cooking?
My why? is absolutely my family. Like, I don't ever want anybody who's ever supported me to ever feel like their support was in vain. Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that everything that they gave me, I can return in full one day.
Oh. And at our high school, there was this restaurant called the Panther Paw, and you were a member of that club.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So from Ferg back then at the Panther Paw to Ferg today, with the various amount of clients that you worked with, places that you've been, could you imagine that back then, and what is words of advice that you would tell yourself back then?
Absolutely not. Like, when I got into that class, it was honestly kind of late because I only was there my senior year due to some academic reasons. Your boy's not that good at math, but hey, I try. So I remember when I got there, Miss McWilliams just kind of like, she was our instructor, she kind of just like took heed of my interest in cooking, and she could see like that I was actually very invested at such a short time frame. So she honestly just gave me a lot of resources and just kind of like was one of those early mentors that helped develop that mentality. It's like, okay, you do have the confidence to do this.
Right.
But now, honestly, looking back, I honestly still thought I'd be in a restaurant, like cooking, working until maybe my 30s, until I got a chance to like open up a spot of my own.
So I do want to ask you two things I want to ask you, but more importantly, what made you decide to make that jump into just freelance cooking? Because that's a scary jump.
Honestly, one of my best friends, Christian Roberts, honestly pushed me really at that moment where I kind of was at a very pivotal point in my career where it was like I kind of felt like I was getting a little bit burned out. I felt like I was getting overstepped for opportunities and different things where I just kind of like was a little bit down on myself and just kind of like had a lot of doubt. So I was at the point where it's like, if I don't leave now, I may put down cooking for the rest of my life.
What time frame was that? Like, what years was that?
So I quit my job in 2018.
Okay.
And yeah, it was September 2018. So it's going on 3 years now that I've been self-employed and freelance. And that honestly was the second time I came to a point similar to that in my career where I felt like I'm not going anywhere, or this isn't all I expected it to be.
When you were working full time?
When I was working full time.
Gotcha. So back to the high school thing. You went from Panther Paw, graduated, and you spent a little bit of time in Italy. Talk to me about how that's the perspective that's given you, and like how that's influenced you today to the point.
That was actually the other point that I was referring to, where it was a make it or break it moment for me. Was when I went to Italy, because I had a rough time in culinary school, and not necessarily for like difficulty purposes, but I honestly felt like.
Quick question, what culinary school did you go to?
So I graduated from the HK Institute from Anne Arundel Community College.
Okay.
So I remember when I was there, a lot of the instructors and different people, I felt like I was misunderstood for reasons of me asking questions for clarity. And the infrastructure of being a chef is kind of the mentality that you just do as you're told.
Right.
And you don't necessarily question the reasons that things are done that way. And for me, I'm just an inquisitive person. So I would be like, if we're doing this way, but it can be done another way, why are we doing it this way?
Yeah.
They didn't take too kindly to that. So there was a lot of feathers I ruffled with that. So before I went to Italy, a lot of the instructors were just like, yeah, you're gonna go over there. And one instructor in particular, he was like, you're just gonna pick herbs the entire time. You're not gonna do anything but just waste your time and your money. So it's like going into that, like me, young, like fresh out of high school, I'm like, I'm not really confident enough in my ability to be like,
and these are grown men, like
these are grown men, like 40s, like they've already done their thing, like worked at country clubs or whatever, and they all had like they all had accomplished a lot, but it was like for you to try and tell a student that at such an early point in his career, it honestly was a moment where I almost gave up before I even got started, because at that point I wasn't even technically working in a kitchen. At that point I was working at Best Buy.
See, but sorry, from then you went to Italy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and your time there.
Italy, now when I look back, was one of the best experiences, honestly, that could have ever happened to me, because I was able to see so much in such a short time that just shaped, honestly, my outlook on food.
How long were you out there?
I was in Italy for 6 months, and that was in 2015.
Okay.
So I did a lot of growing in that short time, and it honestly was something that I cherish now more than anything. Like when I looked at it then, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go over here and do my best. But
we'll see what happens type thing.
Honestly, I feel like that partly defines who I am as a chef now, because it's like I can look back and I was asked to extend and stay longer at the restaurant I was actually employed at due to financial reasons. I was a broke college student. I was like, honestly, right now it's not in the cards.
Yeah.
So I came back home, and that's when I started like, yo, I need to get into a kitchen. I need to do this. I need to do that. Let's get it going. It's like, you clearly got it. They wanted you.
Right. All right. So while we're on the topic of traveling, you were recently in LA. I saw on Instagram. What were you out there for?
So I was out there for a little bit of work and play for some reason. So I can give a quick exclusive. I was out there. I filmed a pilot that could potentially manifest into something, but I can't really say as to what it is. But there was some work where potentially we could see some more screen time for your boy.
I'm excited. Hopefully that gets picked up and it pans out something wonderful for you. We're getting ready to wrap up here, but before we do go, what do you have coming up for the people to look forward to?
There is definitely going to be an announcement very soon for another multi-course experience that I've been working quite some time on, just making sure I bring that to life. So everybody should stay tuned. More details will be available soon, as well as YouTube content that shall be arriving very soon, and before you know it.
And we've been chefing it up. It's going to be very beautiful scenes of you cooking. Is Chef Ferg accessible to just any and body who reaches out, or how do people reach to you to cook for them?
The best point of contact will definitely be my email.
Okay.
Or via my website, Chef Morgan James.
Yeah, tell them.
chefmorganjames@gmail.com or chefmorganjames.com for all inquiries, questions, or anything like that. There's no requirements for working with me. There's no prerequisite. You don't have to pass the bar. I'm trying to. I'm trying to provide a luxury service that I also feel is always fair within the means of taking care of people.
Appreciate that. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Get to Know. Appreciate Chef Ferg. Nick is off camera, but appreciate him for holding down for the first half of this interview. My name is Costo. You can find us at aridedown95 on Twitter and aridedown_95 on Instagram. And that's that.
Here we are, our final product. Our pan-seared duck breast with our blueberry Dijon pan sauce, our roasted Brussels sprouts, and our sweet potato puree. Enjoy.